Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Random Chatter Reviews. I'm joined tonight by Eric and Tim, and we're here to talk about things that we've seen recently, whether it's new or old stuff we're catching up on. So let's just jump right in. Guys, the first thing we looked at this week was probably going to be Loki, I think, right? We all saw Loki on Wednesday?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So this is the new limited... Is it a limited series, Tim? I know you were more up on the behind-the-scenes stuff of MCU stuff than we are sometimes,
So this is 6 episodes this season. There is a very, very strong rumor that there is going to be a second season, but it has not been confirmed by Disney yet.
It's a multiverse. It is literally limitless. It's a limitless series.
We're going to get 18 seasons all taking place at the same time across different. Yeah, there we go.
That would be awesome, wouldn't it? If like each season they just paralleled the one season, but like different takes and like different events and stuff, right? No.
In episode 1, he drove a blue car. In episode 2, he drives a red car. Yeah.
In episode 3, he crashes the green car. Yeah, there's so many different things you could do with that. Just saying.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But so for this season, we're getting 6 episodes only, which seems really short, considering we have a lot of questions already raised in that first episode. Eric, what do you think
expect, though, to see like 5.5 hours?
Don't care.
Yeah, the first episode was like 50-something minutes. It was good length, I thought.
It was. I'm still angry.
Okay, well, I was going to ask you what you thought of the first episode. You're angry?
About the quantity thing, because pretty soon... Okay. It's called the slippery slope argument, Lou. At what point do we get 4 episodes in one season? And then pretty soon 2 episodes, but it's okay because they're 90 minutes.
Well, I mean, they did that with, what was the BBC show with Benedict Cumberbatch?
Yeah, Sherlock.
Yeah.
Yeah, look how that turned out.
1.5 hour long episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But they were good.
They're good, but give us, if it's that good... then you're pissing everybody off when you only give them 2.
So what Kevin Feige has basically committed to, at least for the foreseeable future, is targeting around 6 hours of content for each of these series. He said that's kind of their
sweet spot.
Their sweet spot in this. It's economically viable for them. It also tells good stories. And of course, the storytelling depends on, or the number of episodes depends on how that storytelling is going to get broken up. So sure, we could get half-hour episodes that are going to be frustratingly short and not ending in a point that's like a cliffhanger of any sort or anything like that. It just kind of like, that ended kind of flatly. And then it, picks up again. So, I mean, yeah, sure. In post-production, they could break these things up however they want to. And I think we're simply going to see different models as we, at least on the Marvel side, we're going to see things structured differently as we go show to show, because they're going to say, you know what, roughly hour-long episodes are going to work out really well. And for others, yeah, it's going to be maybe 30, 40 minutes.
Still pissed.
That's going to work out well for us.
Still pissed.
So I'll give you a reason.
Kenobi's only 4,
longer episodes.
right? Kenobi's only 4.
Wow,
yeah.
Really? I didn't realize that.
I'm telling you guys.
And that's a limited series, though. That's like a mini series.
Oh, that's like a mini series. It's like a micro series.
Yeah, but I mean, it's one story being told. I see that. I get that.
Pretty soon we're getting a nano series.
Let me give you a reason why it's better to see Loki with 50-ish minute episodes than WandaVision with the half-hour ones we got.
Yeah,
because every Disney Plus episode does like 10 minutes of credits at the end of the show.
True.
And they're counting that as runtime. So
yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, that's very true.
10 minutes in a half-hour episode is different than 10 minutes in a 50-minute.
And I got to say, I would, if I had to choose, I would prefer fewer 60-minute episodes than I would twice as many 30-minute episodes. I think that the storytelling does work better when you can sit down for an hour and watch it. And
yeah,
to your question, Lou, I liked the episode. I loved it. This is, to me, kind of a breakthrough for Marvel television. To me, Falcon and Winter Soldier felt like a television series. It felt like something that I would have expected out of an action TV series from the 80s or 90s or 2000s, but like super modern, super high production quality. Like it definitely was Marvel. Like nothing I'm saying here is negative. I'm saying it felt like the pinnacle of television. This feels like movies in a television setting. And the epicness of the storyline. So you've got, I mean, WandaVision kind of happened in a little bit of a microcosm. And Falcon and Winter Soldier moved around a lot more. They had different locations and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so the scale was a little bit bigger. The scope was bigger. And then in this one, both the scale and the scope were bigger. WandaVision had a small scope, a small area, but a big scale, right? And changing reality itself. And I think the scale of Winter Soldier maybe was a little smaller, but the scope was broader. It was all over the world. And then this seems like it's kind of both. And you've got Loki, a god, and you've got people who can render the Infinity Stones inert. Like, this is some big level stuff.
Yeah.
And by the way, you know, what they could have stepped in with the Thanos thing. I know why they didn't. And we could get into the whole story explanations and stuff. But, I mean, you know, come on.
I liked it a lot. It's certainly more cerebral than the previous two Marvel Disney Plus shows that we've seen. Yeah. Obviously, there's a lot to do with Eric, basically, as you were just alluding to, with the concepts of time travel that are in this, and the sacred timeline, and the variants, and branches, and nexus, and all that kind of stuff. All these things that they threw at us and explained to us, really in a fantastic way that makes it all understandable, but still gives us an awful lot of what ifs. I mean, obviously, we're back with MCU TV. We covered this last week, and there's so much of it that John doesn't understand relative to the time travel piece and the different variants. And he's like, well, but if this Loki doesn't go back to the timeline, then the future never occurs for Loki. It's like, no, John, it already did, because it happened, and our heroes in Endgame went back in time, and this is a previous Loki. I
love discussions like that.
I love it. Yeah. It started off in the morning by text, and I was getting confused even in the text from him. Like, he was confusing me because he's saying, well, but Loki did this. And I'm like, which Loki are you talking about now?
Yeah. I love those discussions.
It's incredibly well done. I love Owen Wilson in this. Yeah. I love how they kicked this story off, and how they basically crafted this world, I'll say, of the TVA, even though they're an entity it's not a world, but it's kind of, they are. I mean, they have this microcosm of control of the entire freaking universe in a very defined fashion.
Right.
And for as much I love the dichotomy of, you know, basically them saying, well, hey, if you deviate from the sacred timeline, we're going to spank you. No, that's not quite true. They are very judgmentally and arbitrarily choosing what they will or will not enforce based on what they think is, quote, right.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I love that, because that makes them fallible. And it basically puts them on par with Thanos. And I'm not saying that they're evil, but it's, you know, Thanos was very altruistic with what he wanted to accomplish. They're being very altruistic with what they want to accomplish, but they're carrying a big stick, and they're choosing who they're going to hit with it. And I love that.
And there's the institutionalization of it as well. It's like a pseudo government of sorts.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there's bureaucracy.
They have not only propaganda material, they have their own internal propaganda material. And that aspect of things is fascinating. I love the kind of the tone of the show. It's as close as we're going to get to Douglas Adams in MCU, and it's as close as we're going to get to Doctor Who in the MCU. It's got just a little bit of touches of both of those. And there's something about the feel of this show that just, this is my thing. Like this feels natural to me, you know.
It does. I mean, the comedy was spot on. It hit good funny points.
It really did.
And I got to give Owen Wilson a lot of credit for that, because he played that role perfectly. I mean, he's a bureaucrat. He's not really there. You know, he cares about his job, but he's not like, you know, I got to follow the book and do all this stuff. And he's kind of like playing that rogue guy where he's going against the what was her name? B-15, the woman that was in charge of the one trying to wrangle him in. It was just great to see him play that kind of straight man against this stuff. It felt fun.
And you know, he's good in some roles, and he's really not good in others. But a lot of times, if you get him in the right role, he is really good. And I feel like this is definitely the right role for him. And I was excited to see that what I was expecting from the trailers was exactly what we got. I was really happy with him in this role. So Lou, I know you're into time travel stuff. I'm curious as to you liked it then?
Right in my lane. I thought it was great. I am all about the fact that we have multiple Lokis now, and there's the variants running around, and you know, I can't wait to find out what they follow up with of what happened at the end of the episode there. You know, what was going on there, and I mean, pulling threads throughout history and the ability to kind of pop into a timeline to see what was going on there. I love it. I just can't wait for more of this stuff. I'm just sad we're only going to get 6 episodes, and it feels like it's way too short.
And the ability to also erase those timelines.
Yeah, they got to go into that a little more too. The whole reset thing. Yeah.
Well,
and now whoever that person was has that reset device that was never set off.
So that's the first thing. The second thing, you noticed there was a reference in that little instructional video where they were talking about that if they didn't correct these things, the multiverse would just fall into madness. What's the subtitle for Doctor Strange 2?
Multiverse of Madness.
Just saying.
Yeah, definitely the supposition here is that once we get to the end of these 6 episodes, it's going to fundamentally blow up the multiverse well. So either the TVA will have lost control, or the TVA will end up ceasing to exist, or something will occur, because there will end up being so many timelines, multiverses created. And of course, the writer for Loki is also one of the writers on Multiverse of Madness. Right. So he was very sure to make all these fantastic connections.
And
this is that planning thing we talked about on a recent Star Wars show episode.
Right. And even going back to WandaVision, I mean, they're talking in this show about Nexus events branching off of the main timeline. And wasn't there a reference in one of the later episodes to Wanda being a Nexus? Yes. And I think you could argue that she is potentially far more destructive to the timeline than Loki. So I'm kind of wondering how that's going to all play together too. I want to give a quick shout out. We're not affiliated, and this is me personally. This isn't Random Chatter, and we're not affiliated in any way with this other channel. This guy's never heard of us, and it's not just because the host's name is also Eric, which I have to point out it's kind of a cool name. Just wanted to say that. New rock stars. Whether you love them or hate them, they do a really brilliant job of analyzing trailers and movies, and they grab stuff behind the scenes that, like, things in the background I never would have caught. Like the guy, the auditor guy, who was also in a bunch of other things, The Good Place, Other Space, things like that, who took the Tesseract. The guy sitting behind the desk, right? The administrative guy.
Yeah.
You'll notice he's got...
didn't know what a fish was.
Yeah, didn't know what a fish was. So he's got a pen in his pocket, and throughout the episode, the pen is leaking ink into his shirt pocket. And just like
oh, is it really?
Yeah, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Like little funny things in the background you don't catch. Great. And New Rockstars does a really good job of that, but they catch the important things too. There was a whole discussion he had in one of the videos about the fact that it looks like in the background you can see Peggy Carter. Mm-hmm. And there are some people online I know who are talking about, okay, well, didn't Steve Rogers kind of mess up the timeline a little bit too? And when he went back in time and then lived out his life with Peggy, and then didn't that kind of screw with things a little bit? And did the TVA intervene at all there? And maybe we just didn't know about it. And so now we're seeing what might be Peggy Carter in the background. I don't think it was Haley Atwell as the actress, but it looked a lot like the character. He's got one video where he breaks down the stuff that goes on in the episode. I didn't catch the tiny spoiler here. I'll try to water it down. A character pickpockets another character. I didn't catch it the first time around. He points it out in the video. Watched it today with my son, and wow, was it fast? But yeah, it's clearly there if you know what to look for. And then he does another video where he breaks down the end credits sequence and all of the different things in the background of the end credits. So again, shout out to New Rockstars. They've got a good channel when it comes to breaking stuff down. And there's a lot of stuff in this episode. It's pretty dense.
Yeah, there really is. It sets up a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
And it actually is worth watching 2 or 3 times because there is so much nuance to it. The humor is still funny the third time through.
Yeah.
Because of the nature of it, and you really just kind of get pulled in more and more. It's one of those things. It's almost cinematic, where like the first time you're watching it, you're just trying to take in as much as you possibly can because there's so much going on. Then those subsequent viewings, you're able to pull in those little details.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, I know I'm looking forward to episode 2 this coming Wednesday. So every Wednesday for the next 5 weeks.
I like that too.
Check out Loki. I think it's a big thumbs up from the 3 of us.
I like that it's Wednesdays. We get Bad Batch on Fridays, this on Wednesdays.
You know, I mentioned on our Star Wars show that threw me off because I'm used to one thing a week from Disney Plus, and Friday morning came around mid-morning. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't watch Bad Batch. See, other new things come out this week that I have not seen. Has anyone seen In the Heights? That's the new Lin-Manuel Miranda
I did
movie.
see it. Tim,
you did see it,
you? Okay. Well, I thought I'd better because I know we're going to be covering musicals on Movie Chatter.
Yeah, I was all set to put that on top of my playlist, and then somebody changed the order on us. So,
Robin kept insisting that we should do more musicals, and she kept threatening, and I said, you know what? Okay, but I want to pick the musical. And she agreed, and so I picked a musical by creators of one of the biggest Broadway shows out right now. They're multiple Tony Award winners, multiple Grammy Award winners, and multiple Emmy Award winners. They just haven't gotten an Oscar yet. I mean, high pedigree. Yeah. So quick preview on Tuesday night, we're going to be covering Cannibal the Musical by Trey Parker and Matt Stone, creators and producers of South Park and Book of Mormon. And this is their film school project, their college project. Yeah. And you don't need to see it to enjoy the podcast.
Interesting.
Trust me, this episode of Movie Chatter will be enjoyable just in and of itself.
I don't need to see it to do the podcast. Okay, I didn't realize.
No. I'm looking at the I'm not looking at you, Lou. I'm looking at the audience.
Oh,
yeah. No, you do have to watch it. And if you want to also watch In the Heights, we can cover both in one episode. If you and Robin would like to do that, In the Heights, for those who don't know, this is actually the first Broadway show that Lin-Manuel Miranda did. Prior to Hamilton, and it's set in New York City. It's really good. I liked Hamilton better. It was really good. It's, I mean, I'm saying this as someone who typically does not like musicals. So the music itself is, I mean, it's Lin-Manuel Miranda. It's catchy. It's well written. It's witty. It's engaging, it's vibrant, it's energetic. The story is good. The story is predictable. Some things not quite as easily, but for the most part, it's a lot of Broadway show stories are predictable, though. I mean, it's just kind of the nature of the beast, right? And I think in part that's maybe why I don't like a lot of musicals. They seem to get so wrapped up in the performance and the music that what I like about stories in movies and television just typically isn't there in musicals. I will say that this had a strong story. It had really good characters, really strong character development. I mean, it's still a musical. I'm not in love with it. I would be willing to rewatch it. If somebody wanted to watch it with me, I would, without hesitation, sit down and watch it again. I have watched Hamilton multiple times. I downloaded the soundtrack for it. I don't know that I would personally download the soundtrack for this, even though the music's really good. And, if it were on and I wanted background noise or something, I'd definitely leave it on. I mean, the music alone makes for great background noise. And the story is interesting and compelling. I think it's worth one watch. I don't know many people who'd probably want to watch it over and over again, unless you're into musicals. I do know some people who are into musicals who are already obsessed with this movie. So I'm going to say I'm going to boil it down to, it's not my thing, but I recognize that it's really high quality.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, it's on my list to watch. I definitely want to see it. My wife wants to see it, so we will watch it within the next week or so. But
and we are going to cover it on Movie Chatter. We'll break it down. And so I'll have to rewatch it for that because I'll need to take some notes and stuff, and I'll happily do so. It's that good.
Okay, cool. In terms of other stuff, so neither one of you guys are owning up to the fact of, I thought somebody recommended this on the show and I watched it, and I'm glad I watched it because it was really good. But Tim says he doesn't remember recommending it, and Eric, I don't think you
I've never seen it.
Recommended it. But okay, so there you go. I don't know where I heard this from. I don't know where I got this on my list, but no, I don't think so. But anyway, The Food That Built America is a documentary series on not Netflix, on History Channel. It's in season 2. I'm watching season 2 before I watch season 1 because season 1 is not streaming on my cable service. Okay. It's not on Xfinity. So season 2 is streaming, so I'm watching it on demand.
Isn't it going to kind of spoil the food that came before? If you watch the second, it really is
bad in general. Yeah. But the funny thing is, I've watched 3 or 4 episodes of season 2, and the first one was Pizza Wars. It was basically Domino's and Pizza Hut.
Already sold.
No, I'm sorry. The first one was the Chocolate Wars. It was Hershey's and Reese's.
Wow, yeah, I'm down for that too.
Ones. Then they did pizza. Then they had burgers. I'm like, okay, so if this is the first 3 shows of episode 2, I'm like, what was season 1 about? I mean, you were covering the big things right here in season 2, but
it's a really great series.
See, he did recommend
the stuff that they get into.
Truth comes out.
He does see it, but he didn't think he recommended it. But
well, I've seen it, but I don't know that I was the one who recommended it. But yeah, I've seen a lot of them, and they're fascinating, and especially it's with things that have like multiple brands today, and going back in time, they're showing how these 2 brands came to be, especially when they're like very similar to each other.
Right. And the interesting thing with this is it's not just a documentary where they have, experts or industry people talking about it. They're actually acting out some of the stuff. They hire actors that may or may not look like the people that are supposed to portray. And they'll
dramatic recreations.
Yeah, exactly. They'll do a scene where, the guy that was in charge of, Reese, the guy that worked for Hershey, when he got fired, and decided to do his own company called
and made the best Reese candy product in the world
you
ever.
Might have heard of that, right? Might have heard of that little peanut butter cup thing. Speaking of that, that's a different story entirely. But no, it's fascinating because they talk about stuff that I hadn't realized, and when you think about going back in time frame to where there was no pizza delivery stuff out there. And then you had Domino's and Pizza Hut fighting for, national bragging rights as far as who's the biggest. And at a time when they're talking about saying, pizza was not a thing then like it is now. It's not everywhere. You weren't getting local pizza places. This was the first introduction of pizza to America, really. It's like, wow, you think about that, you're like, okay, it's interesting.
Well, and delivery service too. I mean, you're kind of hitting both innovations there. And now, I mean, we've crowdsourced food delivery. We've got, Uber Eats and DoorDash.
Right, Uber Eats and
not to be confused with DoorDash, so, I mean, which is something else.
But yeah, really good series. I'm planning on going back and watching season 1 after I get done this. Find a way to find that streaming somewhere. But yeah, it's really good stuff. Really, really engaging.
I just added that to my list, and apparently there's some other, like the Food That Built America snack sized or something. I guess it's little 30-minute episodes or.
I saw that. Yeah, I haven't seen those. I saw that. Yeah, the
that
snacks
sounds really
Built
good.
America. Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little hungry now.
So I recommend watching that.
And there's also related to this, basically similar production, the Titans That Built America, the people that built America, that kind of stuff. And so you see these histories of non-food related things that help shape all these things, and where we are today. And they obviously draw a lot of comparisons and really looking back at, okay, where are we today and how did we get here with some certain aspect, say, transportation, and then going back and showing how all that happened. So yeah, cool stuff.
A quick shout out too, it's separate because it's not History Channel. This is on Netflix, but there's the movies that made us and the toys that made us. A little bit different maybe because this is focusing on a singular thing per episode, whereas the Food That Made America and the other things you just listed, Tim, are more about industries. But yeah, I like that type of thing where you're getting to explore the creation and background of things that either you grew up on or that you have around you every day that's part of your day-to-day life. There's so much of just things around us, pens and paper and laptops and computer mice and whatever else. It's just there. It's always been there. It's ubiquitous. And we never really take into consideration, like, how did we get to the point where we have food just appear at our door already cooked that we can pay 18 times as much money for as we should? Like, how did that even happen? And yeah.
Right. It's cool to put yourself back in the place where it's like, okay, what happened? Remember a time when, and obviously we're of a different age too than some of our listeners might be, where back in college there.
No, because you didn't have the automobile built yet, and the horses shake. Because listen, the toppings they shake around all over the place on the horse, and it's a mess by the time you get.
It settles.
Did you have to use like spoons to open the box up and?
So Tim, what else have you been watching? What's on your list?
Well, so the only other thing I have is one of the latest Actors on Actors episodes. And if you're not familiar with the Actors on Actors, is done by Variety. And it is basically a mutual interview. So they get two actors and they're interviewing each other. And sometimes it's something that's related. Other times it's something that's not. And this happened to be Kaylee Cuoco and Elizabeth Olsen. And, quite good. Obviously, they both have projects going on. Kaylee Cuoco has The Flight Attendant.
Surprisingly
over on
good.
HBO Max, which got renewed for a second season. Yeah, really, really good. Like solid writing and really nuanced and fantastic stuff. And Elizabeth Olsen, obviously, is Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, over on the MCU side. And it just kind of it's fairly casual. It's just like us, talking to each other about stuff that we're working on, kind of thing. And there's no script to it or anything like that. It was maybe 40 minutes or so. And really good stuff. I mean, especially looking at it from the MCU side, which was my big interest. And Elizabeth Olsen, like when they recorded this, and it was recorded fairly recently, She said she had just gotten home to LA a few days ago. She had been gone for 2 years.
Wow.
She was in Atlanta doing WandaVision, and immediately after finishing WandaVision, got on a plane, left for London, and did Doctor Strange 2. So, yeah, and she just got home. So just like, I mean, just it really puts some things in perspective.
All her plants are dead. Her
both of them
fish are floating at the top of the tank.
they talked about
the fridge has gone really bad.
Talk about spoiled food.
Yeah, it's like it's beyond chunky. It's just one big chunk. They talked about shooting during the pandemic and how it changed things and what they had to do. Both of them getting into things like directing and producing and comparing that to acting, and basically both of them saying, yeah, we really like the directing and producing thing, but sometimes it's nice to just show up and act and go, and not be married to a project that like, oh, you're going to shoot for 6 days. And on that 7th day, you're going to run through all the dailies and you're going to be making script notes and all that kind of stuff that then, exactly. That then gets enacted on the next day one. So, just, really great discussion. They also just put out a new one with Ewan McGregor and Pedro Pascal.
That was good.
For the Star Wars fans. And they've been doing these for the last few years. They have a great library of them. They're all up on YouTube. They're also on Variety's
half-hour
website. Most of them sit somewhere around half hour, 40 minutes. And they're really entertaining. They get really good talent. And it's very, like I said, it's very candid stuff. It's not scripted or anything.
Cool. I've caught bits and pieces of it, especially recently between the Elizabeth Olsen and the Pedro Pascal news that kind of came out of those. So I need to go back and I know I've watched some in the past, but I really need to go back through that collection.
Okay. Eric, what else? What about you? You see anything else either catching up or new?
A couple of nothing really new. A couple of honorable mentions though. I've mentioned before I'm a big fan of Mythic Quest on Apple TV Plus. And last season, first season, it's a comedy in a workplace where they make a World of Warcraft-like game. But it's not about the game. It's about the dysfunctionality of the staff. And I love it. I love this show. It's one of my absolute favorite shows on right now, or recently. First season, they did a weird episode. They flashed back probably 20 years. And the episode focused on characters that aren't even on the show. To get through several years of these characters' lives, and you find out that at the end, like their initials are basically carved into one of the concrete pillars in the building where the people do the game design. Like you carve initials into a tree, like love birds and the little heart with the arrow through it and their initials and stuff. And it was not a comedy episode at all. It was drama and it was heartfelt. It was like it kind of grabs you a little bit. And it was a heavy episode and it was brilliant. It was incredible, but it was not at all the tone of the show. This year, I didn't think they were going to do it again, and they did. They did another flashback episode, this time based on one of the primary characters of the show. And it took place, I want to say maybe back in the 70s or something. And it's about the primary writer of the show, who's basically a failed sci-fi author. And again, no comment, not a single laugh, there's no intentional joke in the episode, but just brilliant writing. It was incredible. I can't say enough good things about this show. Not all of the episodes this season have hit as strong as the first season did. It's good, and it's still kind of building up to where it's going. But man, this episode, and then the follow-up episode that just aired that takes place in the present, also not a lot of comedy to it, but it's a follow-up to the flashback episode, and just brilliant. So in the flashback episode, this author, I don't want to spoil anything. So he writes a book and it's pretty crappy. And apparently now you can get that book that the character wrote. It's a short story. It's a novella. So I just want to throw that out there. Apparently it's available only through Apple's eBooks. And so you can get that for your Apple ebook reader thing. But anyway, so Mythic Quest continues to just be an incredible show. In the last few episodes, notable, mentionable. Like they're just wow. And then my son is here visiting as of this weekend, and there were a couple of things he wanted to see, and it was raining out today, and so we kind of had a lazy day here at home. And so we watched a couple of things. He wants to go see something in theaters. He doesn't want to see Cruella. He definitely doesn't want to see Peter Rabbit 2. And there's not a lot of other stuff that he can go see that's really age appropriate. Like the Hitman's Bodyguard's Wife, not taking him to go see Samuel Jackson and Ryan Reynolds compete for F-bomb drops for 2 hours, right? So he thinks he wants...
It sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah, no problem, right? Sure. So he thinks he wants to see A Quiet Place 2, which is PG-13, and he's 12. Close enough. So we watched A Quiet Place 1 today, and he liked it. He also now has started watching Stranger Things. So we're a couple of episodes into that. And and then he's wanted to see the Tom and Jerry movie for
really?
Since it came out. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. His review was that it wasn't as bad as I told him it would be. Which, you know, the Spanish Inquisition was not as bad as I told him this movie would be. The Black Plague wasn't as bad as I told him this movie would be. But I did realize after watching it a second time, and looking back at some of the harsh things I said the first time around, now that I've gotten a chance to like sit down and objectively rewatch it, I should have been way harsher the first time. This movie is so freaking bad. The mouse is a thieving, violent jerk. The cat is a stupid, violent jerk. Chloe Moretz's character is a deceptive, conniving jerk. Like, there's just nobody likable in this movie. There's not a likable moment in the movie. The slapstick is childishly bad. I like slapstick comedy. And it was just like so badly written and enacted. And then there's the technical things we talked about before. Like everything I said about this movie, I was way too generous before. Way too generous. I did not think it was possible for it to get worse on a second viewing. Wow, was I wrong. I underestimated just the craptasticness of this film.
Wow.
I say film with air quotes.
Don't hold back, Eric.
Yeah.
That's how you really feel.
Oh, no. We need a shorter episode than that, Lou. But that's it. Oh, and again, of course, so I did go ahead and rewatch Cannibal the Musical in preparation for Movie Chatter this week. You know, Lou, all you had to do...
I think I have a conflict.
All you had to do, any of the last 5 years from my birthday...
Don't put this on me.
Was to follow through with what you agreed upon, which was to watch Kung Pao Enter the Fist with me. And 5 years now, Lou, we still haven't watched it. So now, yeah, we're officially doing Cannibal the Musical. And we're still going to do Kung Pao.
If it will stop another viewing of something like Cannibal the Musical, we will do a watch together for
Thank you.
Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
Thank you.
As soon as you want.
Okay. Yeah, Tim's smiling, but guess what? You're in too.
Oh,
yeah. Now this will be a random. This is going to be an official random chatter event. Yes.
I'm busy that day.
And you are busy
Tim
because you are going to be recording as well. We will be recording our responses throughout the movie.
I right now my mouse is hovering over the remove from call option for Eric.
Tim, I did not drag you into this.
No.
Oh,
no,
no,
Lou didn't.
I did not.
No, you didn't.
No, this is all me.
I did not see that coming.
This is all me. Yep. Yeah, but that's it. So I think it's going to do it for this episode of Random Chatter. Those are our reviews and the things that we would recommend that you watch, or we would recommend maybe you stay away from. But let us know what you've been watching, and have you seen any of the things we've talked about and maybe disagree with our assessment of it and you want to tell us? Let us know. You can put it in the comments below. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can hop into the Discord server. It's not the Random Chatter Discord server anymore, but a lot of our community from Random Chatter is on this other server. So if you head over to randomchatter.com/escape hatch, that will get you a link for an invite into that server. And we do have a Random Chatter channel there in the community projects group. But there's a lot of the same channels, movies and television and MCU and Star Wars and stuff. So hang out with us there. If you have not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do that. randomchatter.com/YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button too. And there's a little bell button over there that will give you notifications anytime we go live or post new shows. And of course, get all of our normal podcasts over at randomchatter.com. We've got a lot of stuff there. And definitely Guardians of the MCU, MCU TV, especially with Loki on right now. You should definitely be listening to those. Just saying. But that's going to do it for this episode. If you're watching us live, stick around. In a few minutes, we are going to be back with a lightning round. Until then,